My name is Luiza Leite, and I will be talking about my paper on the philosophical consequences of light pollution. David Levy, author of Starry Night, says that the magnetic pull of heavens with their apparent infinite depth, the gentle twinkle of stars, the wonderful displays of shooting stars, the appearance of great comets, the Milky Way, the constellations and the planets, and the sound and fury of electrical storms. All these things have played on the fears of the human race. Why are we here? Where did we come from? Give us a sign. The heavens have far too often complied with signs that have pointed to the best and worst of human nature. So light pollution affects everyone. It's estimated that 80% of children born today in America will never behold the sky dark enough to see the Milky Way. Furthermore, according to the World Atlas of Artificial Night Sky Brightness, established in 2001, 2/3 of the world population, including 99% of people in the continental US and Western Europe, no longer experience a truly dark night. It's also a pressing matter. Tyler Nordringen, an artist and astronomer, says that we're at a delicate time where we still have some people that know what they're missing, meaning that if we wait much longer, the people who still appreciate a fully dark sky or know what it even is are dying out, and that the major driver to try and protect this natural heritage will die along with them. So what I'm arguing is that the implications of this new reality, this loss of night, go far beyond the ecological and health concerns that many biologists and medical professionals now study. They represent an unprecedented cognitive shift of a species that is losing its oldest source of inquiry and inspiration. I'm going to be looking at 3 philosophical relationships between man and the sky. 1 is the night sky in human culture, 2 is the night sky and the human mind, and 3 is the night sky and darkness and human anxieties. David Levy wrote that throughout it all, the senses of humankind inspired and articulated the characteristics of curiosity, emotion, study, analysis, creativity, the continuum that evolved the arts and sciences. So this is perhaps the area in human development that the night sky has had its biggest impact. There are several artists who have been inspired by astronomy in the night sky, including Shakespeare, Chaucer, Walt Whitman, Robert Frost, Emily Dickinson, painters like Van Gogh, William Blake, Vermeer, Rockwell, Giotto, and several other Renaissance artists, and musicians like astronomer and composer William Herschel, music producer Michael Kopelman, and bands like Pink Floyd and Coldplay. Here we have Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night painting. We know that the stars were a huge inspiration for him, and he did several paintings with the subject of the night sky. He said, "For my part, I know nothing with any certainty, but that the sight of the stars make me dream." For Van Gogh, he painted this right after having been admitted to an asylum in France near the town of Saint-Remy. And it was said often that for him, the night sky, with all its movement and all its energy, was a release from the kind of stillness of civilized life that really drove him to madness. So, the stars and the cosmos can really become very personal depending on who is looking at them. That's really the beauty and the power of the night sky, is that it can reflect both what is universally human and unconditionally private. And here I have a video that doesn't seem to be working. It's Coldplay's song, A Sky Full of Stars, and in the song, the band uses the sky full of stars as a metaphor for a lover. So the line between scientific inquiry and artistic expression has always been blurred. Historically, scientists like Galileo, Ptolemy, Copernicus, Herschel, Einstein, Newton, and Bacon, they were artists, philosophers, statements, as well as scientists, and this was very common. So sometimes it's the science that inspires the art, and other times it's really the art that informs the science. In this passage from Walden, the seminal book by Henry David Thoreau, he describes a universe that one could even say is a precursor to quantum physics and the multiverse theory. He says, "What distance and different beings in the various mansions of the universe are contemplating the same one sun at the same moment? Could a greater miracle take place than for us to look through each other's eyes for an instant? We should live in all the ages of the world for an hour, aye, in all the worlds of the ages. I know of no reading of another's experience so startling and informing as this would be." So, in summation, while it's true that scientific inquiry and artistic expression would continue with or without dark skies, it would do so like a painter without its muse, uninspired and limited. Now for the night sky and the human mind. Timothy Ferris, who wrote the book The Mind Sky, talks about the relationship of the universe and man as a symmetrical hourglass. So on one end of the hourglass is the outer realm, inhabited by all living things and physical matter, and on the other hand is the inner realm that we can only know in our minds. And then through the neck of the glass flows both the sense data of the exterior, and in the other direction are models and concepts of the natural world. Like he says, we tip the imaginary hourglass from time to time, but so long as there are thinking beings, neither bulb of the hourglass will ever be empty. So why is it then that when we look up at the stars, we think instead of ourselves? Well, I argue that the universe is our past. When we look up, we are literally seeing millions of years into the past. Moreover, we are all ultimately made of stardust. Hydrogen, helium, beryllium, and carbon, all found at the core of stars. These are the building blocks of all things, and they physically connect us to the stars above. Max Planck, the founder of quantum physics, says that science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature, because in the last analysis, we ourselves are part of the mystery we are trying to solve. Timothy Ferris takes this argument one step further, saying that we are confronted then not with the universe, which remains an eternal riddle, but with whatever model of the universe we can build within the mind. Every thinking creature shares this predicament. For all, the ultimate subject of inquiry is not the outer universe, but the nature of its dance within the mind. And what is the emblem of a sound mind, if not conformance between the inner model and the outer reality? What we seek among the stars is sanity. So there's something called the overview effect that astronomers or astronauts describe upon coming back, and it's this idea of seeing the Earth from this space perspective, and it erases all boundaries and conflicts between humans. And for them, it seems very simple that we resolve all these internal conflicts from the perspective, and that if more people could experience this, then we would have a lot less problems on Earth. And so the closest thing I would argue that we can get to the overview effect is called, celestial vaulting. And it's this feeling of infinitude and the loss of boundaries between horizon and sky that some people feel when they observe a truly dark sky. And Bob Berman argues that to get this sense of infinitude, there has to be at least 450 stars at a time visible. Only when we approach this threshold of darkness, considered a Category 3 night, are we touching that ancient core where its collective memories, our genetic memories, or something else from way back before we were even human can really be felt. So darkness and human anxiety and fear. Electric street lighting and the nocturnalization of society marks a huge shift in human civilization. Before this, working and socializing hours were over when the sun went down. But after electric street lighting, our productivity, the Industrial Revolution, this would all usher us into this modern era as we now know it. A lot of proponents for lighting up the nighttime argue that it's for safety reasons, but there's really little concrete evidence to the idea that more light means safer streets. In fact, there's a lot of evidence to the contrary. Bob Misen, who's an astronomer and a dark sky advocate, says, there are thousands of little villages in England with no streetlights, and they're not hotspots for crime. When you see crime on TV and people rioting, are those dark places? No, they're really brightly lit. They're the brightest places in Britain, and they're also the most crime-ridden. So, does light prevent crime? He says, of course not. It's rubbish. And there's actually a lot of studies that support this idea that there's no true, significant statistical relationship between light and safety. So then why is it that we still have this almost intuitive idea that light equals safety? Well, it's because this most ancient of human anxieties, this fear of the dark, has existed from time immemorial. Night was man's first necessary evil, our oldest and most haunting terror. So how then can we hope to get past our fear of darkness? Rationally speaking, our fear is like an evolutionary souvenir, like tonsils and appendices, which we no longer have much use for. So maybe the better thing to ask is, what do we lose, women and men alike, when we are so afraid of darkness that we never experience its beauty or understand its value for our world? Maybe the question is fear so bad? Conclusion. Light pollution, unlike many other kinds of pollution, is an issue that is well within our power to control and correct. It's a win-win scenario. A reduction in light pollution also means massive savings on electricity for individuals and governments alike. With the proper re-education of lighting professionals, the general public, and local governments, there is no reason why stars cannot begin to shine again in some of our night skies. The consequence of not doing anything, however, as we've looked at, could be potentially catastrophic to our advancement as human beings in terms of science, art, and the way we view ourselves and the world. This got cut. Paul Bogard regards on his trips to the Great Basin National Park that how right it feels to know a true night sky, how right to know the dark, and as my companions and I head back toward the parking lot, toward the light, I let others walk ahead in turn. One more time before I go inside, before the lights take my night vision, to see in that darkness our home in the universe, the rising ribbon of billions of stars sashed overhead the horizon to horizon, just as it has always been. And that is all. Thank you.